So thank you, everyone. I'm Will Daugherty. I oversee global inventory development for the trade desk. I have not been back to Toronto since February of 2020, right before everything shut down. My prior role, I was at Index Exchange, so I spent a lot of time up here. I feel very fond and of this market, of this just community. I've been welcomed by our local team here so well. Like, they got me a Leafs jersey with my name on the back, and I don't think they realized I grew up in Boston, so I can never wear it. So or they did know.
Will, what number did they put on it?
What's that?
What number did they put on the jersey?
I don't know. I was so trembled with fear that it was going to end up on social media. We didn't get that far. Does anybody know the number? No? Okay. 5. Okay. Anyway, so.
It's not a good number.
This session is called Canada's CTV Evolution, Defining What's Possible in Streaming TV. We absolutely have the best possible group we could have to have this discussion. And with that, I would love for our panel to introduce themselves. Alan, could we start with you and work our way down?
Sure. My name is Al Dark. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Revenue Officer of Rogers Sports and Media. Go Leafs, go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Kerr. I'm with the CBC Radio-Canada, and I lead all of our advanced digital product and revenue.
Hi, I'm Perry McDonald. I know that's close, right? Perry McDonald, Bell Media, ad sales, and partnerships. I'm not as bullish on the Leafs. It's killing me how much money that's taking away from me and Greg.
You have a radio voice.
That's another story.
Yeah, don't bring up sports, please. Greg McClelland, I'm the EVP and CRO for Corus Entertainment.
So, because it's in the title, we do have to define what's possible on this panel. So, just to get us going, to kind of kick things off and make sure we can kind of level set the right context, I'm going to ask if your content is available to buy programmatically. If I watched on a mobile device, you can just by raise of hands. It's everybody. Watched on a tablet, it's kind of the same thing. On demand. And live events, live sports. So,
Hate that question.
anything live. So, safe to say that nearly all streaming content, save for a few, is available programmatically. Has that always been the case? When did that start to integrate into, I'd say, your overall offering? Al, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So for us, it started last year. We've been working on it for some time. Our approach to the market, and many of you have heard our pitch, is really about total TV. Because we think you need the full gambit of distribution to make your marketing campaigns work and leveraging video in totality. But we also want to be very transparent and work with our partners and agencies in a way that suits them best. So we spend a lot of time, effort, energy, money to not only have programmatic opportunities within our on-demand content, but also within live. And we're one of the first broadcasters in North America to do that at scale in live sports.
Julie?
Yeah, I think we're going as fast as we can with the technology we have, because we're always trying to make our audiences available to our clients. And from our side, our teams have been working maybe for 4 years on GEM and 2.tv, in-housing that technology. So our teams are building Netflix and Spotify in-house. So it's taken a few years to bring that in, but we've been launching it. And adding distribution partners this year and having a really aggressive roadmap to get that data layer and sophistication that's still not there maybe on the connected TV side. But it's exciting to see how quickly it's evolving and progressing.
Yeah. Just to add on to what they said. Listen, if we look at the numbers, don't lie. I think it was 2018. Connected TV was what, $230 million in revenue in Canada. This year, it's going to be just over $1 billion. So what's that? 4.5x growth. So of course, it's in our interest to grab as much of that growth as possible. So I could go on for this whole half hour about what Bell Media is investing in data and ad tech, but suffice to say, we're setting ourselves up to take advantage of that growth.
Yeah, think of us as sports. Our news is our sports. And so we have 12 live streams on our Global TV app, as well as on Pluto TV and on Stack TV. And we've been using programmatic for the last 3 or 4 years for all those.
So this is a great segue to my next question, almost if I planned it that way. You have streaming, you have linear. I think one of the misconceptions, and we deal with it in the US too, is that they're sort of binary or it's zero sum, it's one or the other. Or that you have to make separate deals with two sides of the house in order to sort of access either one. Is that, like, how true or not true is that based on your own organizations? We'll go this way this time.
Well, it's a great question, and I would say there's sort of two ways to look at it. There's the technology way, which I would say when I look at our Global TV app and Stack TV and Pluto, over half the content is now consumed on CTVs, and half of that inventory is sold programmatically. But when we look at it from the agency side, we're still sometimes siloed into talking to television buyers and digital buyers. And we're agnostic at doing that, but we are, I would say, willing to go further and faster than a lot of our agency partners can do right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, we're following what our customers are doing and what our customers want. Certainly there's a measurement challenge with linear video and digital video, so that presents issues for sure. I'm not going to give too much detail now. We're going to have something to talk about maybe in a month or so, which is going to be pretty groundbreaking, that I think is going to be able to help streamline that process. It's also, I think, going to help significantly with targeting both linear, non-linear, and providing a much improved experience, I would say, not only for viewers of the content, but also for brands that are placing their brands in the message in that content. So more on that to come, but it's certainly going to be something we're pretty excited about.
I think maybe the thing that I'll add to that is that we're all flexible and we'll all optimize as much as we can. What we need are those commitments to make sure that the perennity of this content remains as our audiences move to CTV, and that we don't get lost in the shuffle of what programmatic transformation did to other platforms. So those upfront commitments are the lifeblood of Canadian media and news and sports, and so that's the consideration. And we all do bend over backwards and make our teams bend over backwards to accommodate that.
And the last piece that I'll add is when I look at the Canadian landscape versus others, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, the cable ecosystem in this country is not imploding on itself like it is in some other countries. So we are still very close to 70% cable penetration, and our audiences through those linear platforms are still very strong. We're gonna see probably 8 or 9 million uniques watching the Leaf game tonight. The vast majority of that consumption is going to come through our cable and our partnership with CBC. Now, the number of people that are hitting that live stream is growing, and it's super important, but you can't plan one without the other. Like, if you really are focused on a video strategy around premium video in this country, you need to be focused on both channels and not over tilt to one versus the other.
I think one of the really interesting observations I've had about this market is, and I think you hit on it there, is the consumer in the US absolutely disrupted and changed, let's just say, the overall media distribution system faster than I would say the incumbents were ready for or wanted. What I'm seeing here and through our conversations and the panel prep is that there's a unique opportunity in Canada where the media layer is ready for the transformation, even if it's happening at a slightly different pace than what we're observing in the US, where it seemed to happen slowly and then all at once.
Well, I honestly think Hulu was the game changer in the US that tilted that much faster. All of that broadcaster content being pushed into that ecosystem made it really easy for consumers who probably weren't super happy with their cable package to move quickly. And it wasn't like, we didn't have that option here in Canada. And I think that was what has made the difference. Now, I'm not saying that cable is going to all of a sudden stop shrinking, but I don't think we live in a world where cable goes to zero. I'm not sure if that number is 60% or 50%. But either way, if we're not thinking about and planning, to Perry's point, how do we maximize reach and frequency, which is the most important thing we got to figure out, how do we do that across all of those distribution platforms moving forward?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to that, to your planning earlier on, or your comment earlier on total TV. I look at FIFA. Sorry, Greg, on the sports again, but FIFA. There was an average, I think, an average minute audience, which is not really a fair metric when you think about it, but an average minute audience of close to 4 million in each game. But the total, video impressions that it did across different social channels was 550 million. I mean, it was absolutely massive. So those that just looked at the linear option, I mean, they just didn't capitalize on the full holistic opportunity of FIFA. So you're bang on with what you said earlier.
So along those lines, and because what I'm hearing, and it's really encouraging, is the market has shifted. There's a little more balance here than maybe in other markets, specifically the US. Gives you a lot more flexibility. And we should be thinking about those things holistically. And everybody in the in this room should be thinking about those things holistically. So with that in mind, if someone has that holistic, flexible approach, I want to give you an opportunity to tell this room, what is the best way to work with you? Like, what is the best way for advertisers and marketers to adopt or implement that holistic strategy?
That's a great question. Just back on the last point as well, in Canada, there's a couple of unique things that help answer that question. One is our cable prices in Canada are about half is what it is for the US. So we had a thing called Let's Talk TV. Some of you might be too young to remember that, back in 2014, that really allowed people to have skinny cable, that's really helped the cord cutting and cord shaving in this country be about half of what it is in the US right now, to Al's point. So it's slow. Secondly, the four of us on the stage represent almost all the viewing in Canada. So we have 85–90% of all the viewing in Canada. Where in the US, like one of us might have a 30 share. I think the biggest share in the US is Discovery with 14%. So we have a lot more concentrated in here. And so what that means for all of you is when you're thinking about holistically, how do you go to market? We have all of our segments, whether it's linear television or VOD or direct digital or programmatic, all aligned with different data segments that we have in all of our ecosystems. And in some case, we share those. So you can actually buy common segments across all of our inventory, which in the US is absolutely impossible. And just a quick story, when we were doing the deal with Paramount to represent Pluto in Canada over the last year, they were shocked. The thing that slowed down the deal the most was getting the data we needed from them to put it into our common segments. And they said, well, we say that, but we don't actually do that. And we're like, well, we do that. So, to Al's point, Canada is quite a bit ahead in a lot of this sort of technology and how you can buy holistically in Canada.
Yeah, so earlier, by the way, we were talking about we should be taking a shot every time you hear the word data during this panel. So we won't go there, but
Or let's get the tequila up here.
Or we get the tequila going, for sure. So where do I start? Listen, you know, we're privileged in my organization, the media side, and Al, very similar, to be part of the telcos. So we have a massive, I'm not going to say data lake, data ocean of data, where we have 22 million customer connections, and we're in 8 million households, 10 million mobility subscribers, 3.7 million internet households. It goes on and on and on. So, pardon me?
I was going to say, we got the point.
Yeah, we got the point. True. The next point is.
And you got sports.
Yeah.
FIFA
FIFA Women's in August as well, Greg. So good luck. Good luck. So
you're not going to need an upfront.
Yeah. No. The point I'm making is that we've invested, all of us collectively here, in data capabilities and ways to access that data, activate that data, measure that data, to deliver on the KPIs that all you folks are looking at. So I think that, I think there's some huge opportunities there that are not being taken advantage of for different reasons. I'll leave it at that. But I think there's some huge things that we're doing that I don't think people are able to, or not willing to capitalize on at this point.
I think if we talk about the way to work with us, and we've just recently changed our account teams to be 360. But what I took away from the trade desk upfronts in New York is that programmatic is not getting any simpler. And with the power that we bring to the table to connected TV, we're actually disrupting the old programmatic way of doing business. And there's an interesting opportunity there. But my takeaway is really on how do our people service programmatic, because it's going to be a high-touch business, much more than it ever was before. You can't set anything up and just let it run. We need to train teams, we need to talk, we need to educate. I think this platform is a great way of doing it because we need to do it from all sides together to have that sustainable ecosystem. And so it's about the people and that high touch point.
I think it also depends on your strategic approach for video. So if you are looking to just run a tactical execution, I think you can come to us. As Perry said, we have oceans of data. We can help unlock that data with your first-party data. Or you can go through a desk. If that's easier and if that's the way that you want to manage your execution, we're good. I think, again, the key for me is you're missing a big opportunity there, right? If you're only operating through those lenses, because more and more we're doing things with our live production. We talked about news, the local production we do around sports. We're doing more and more branded content, branded integrations into our live and non-live programming. So to me, there's a multitude of ways to activate within this video. So it all depends on that customer's strategy around, and quite frankly, budget too, for sure. But what excites me about it is, the amount of customers that have been able to access premium video in the past because of the price tag. And now, because we're opening up impressions literally to the postal code, the opportunity is immense for us to bring new marketers into that ecosystem through the programmatic desks. So that's where I get really excited about the opportunity.
I think that's right. I mean, if programmatic or even anything that we're doing in CTV was just a lift and shift from column A to column B, that, maybe that happens because it happens. But the real opportunity is here is how much it grows the pie, in that the customer base can start to scale horizontally in a way that we wouldn't otherwise have, because the on-ramps to accessing content and premium content at that are no longer out of reach. I mean, budget's still important, but those things have never been more accessible.
Those limitations to signal and distribution go away, right? When you see scale, the scale that I'm starting to see in Sportsnet now, when we're talking 400,000 concurrent viewers watching, creating 25 million impressions, if I can start giving those to local car dealers who could never think about advertising in Hockey Night in Canada or a playoff game, they're now going to be able to do that. That's a game changer for our business.
We've talked a little bit, or a lot of it, depending on your vantage point, about live events, live sports. Is there anything, it's a huge focus for us in the US. There's technical complexity with live, but I feel like just from our conversation here today, it's a kind of a central theme on all of your platforms, not all sports, but is there anything else you'd want to like double click into there on the live side, or how that experience or that environment, the best way to access that is?
Sorry, let me comment first, because it is, here's the thing that we've struggled with, it's super complicated, right? Like if you think about live sports and you think about the number of big sponsors and integrations and branded content that we are now doing, features we create, we are creating time blocks for customers where we kind of restrict, and they don't have any, we don't want to put competing brands in the same categories up against each other. In live, that is hard to do. And then to create moments where we can activate using programmatic creates another interesting problem or opportunity for us. And so if anyone in this room can help us solve that, I would love to.
Google hasn't figured it out yet.
No,
so
no.
They're working on it still.
Yeah, let's not wait for that.
I would just add the benefit to everything that Al said, is that it's a bit of a blank canvas with I'll use again sports as an example. I think that there's so many opportunities to be creative, to just do something from the ground up, and especially because in most cases we are owning the content, and so we have a lot more flexibility, a lot more input in what we can and can't do from a whole 300. I think you use a 360 with your sales team, but that's true. But even when we're doing these executions, a full 360, not just on what's being broadcast or consumed, but what's happening at the event, what's happening at the venue. There's just it's limitless. So I think that's another opportunity that I don't think is being taken advantage of to the degree that it could be.
And trying to think about it from the buy side, like buying live is different in digital, right? Like it's not your same programmatic. The bid density during the day, Jeff is here, McPherson, he's my Bible for tech, and he's explaining to me the bid density during the day is not the same. When we go live, everything goes crazy. So it's, I think the point is that you have viewers there. And for instance, in Quebec and Radio-Canada, like it's insane the amount of live every night, like you. It's not just sports and peaks and one and dones or playoffs seasonally. It's really on a weekly basis. We have those huge audiences that you can reach in the family setting, leaning into their TV sets.
And I would just say, on the news, on a serious note, it is it's amazing how much live content's consumed on news through CTVs. Like our 12 feeds, we have unbelievable amount of inventory there throughout the day, every day. So while you can watch the Leaf game for 3 hours once every 2 days, you can watch news all the time.
That was well done. That was well done.
Well, but then the Jays are on.
Yeah.
Go Jays.
F1, golf.
Journalism's important, everybody. It's upfront season. Julie, you mentioned it earlier. It's the lifeblood of the market. What's the best way for an advertiser to work with you on upfronts as it comes up?
Just be really transparent with what your needs, what makes a difference, what do their clients need, what growth are they looking for. Clients need business outcomes, and that's not necessarily a demo, and that's not necessarily just a specific audience. The one latest that I've been reading on is silver streamers. We have the richest generation out there, and it's 37% of our population, but it's just not a regular agency's Q demo. Like, this is a business outcome that you want to drive. If you want to sell, a Ford F-150 is $120,000 now. A 27-year-old is not going to buy that here. But these silver streamers and audiences are there. So I think we just need to have conversations about what are the real outcomes that we need.
Yeah, listen, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think working together on those KPIs are huge, and I think that all of the stuff that we've talked about, data and our ad tech, I think is a huge opportunity. I mean, why are we still buying linear video against outdated broad demos like 2554? We're not doing that with our digital video. That's not happening. So I think there could be better conversations right at the get-go to have a lot more insightful conversations and, to your point, deliver those business outcomes that advertisers want.
Well, look, I couldn't agree more, and that's a great point, Julie, and we can go on a long time about this. But for example, 2554 represents about 30% of all TV viewing, 27%. So when you think about that, and you think about those demos were made in the early 60s when life expectancy were 8 years less than it is today, and all the things we're talking about wealth generation, it's crazy we're using these demos. And I also think TV represents $3 billion in Canada today. If you add up all the digital in all the different places, it's around 16 or 17 billion. And you can't measure those two things differently. And we're paying a lot more money to measure television, and we're being held to an extremely high standard that's not being held in the digital world. And we have to somehow bring those two things together as we do our planning and try to drive outcomes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that you need to challenge us more. We have all made a lot of changes to our organizations over the last several years. We've put a lot of time, effort, energy, money, investment into data, platforms, all of the things that we've been talking about. And I feel like there's still a bit of a disconnect. And I've been talking to many of the presidents and CEOs of the agencies recently, kind of pushing them to get their people to challenge us more. I think there's a big opportunity here. I think there's a big opportunity for us to test and try and adjust and retest and try, and we're not doing enough of it. And I understand, I think that there's on the agency side, it's difficult. You guys are doing more with way less than, Christos was talking about being a junior buyer when he started. I'm the same. I started at Omnicom, working with Magnus on Chrysler many years ago. God bless Magnus. And, I think that we can do more of the heavy lifting for you than you are allowing us to do. But you gotta trust us to do that, and that relationship needs to change. And if that means bringing people like the Trade Desk to the table to help bring some of that data together, then we as an industry really need to work on changing the way that we are interacting, because I think there's a bigger opportunity here for us.
Wonderful. So to close us out, if we're all on this stage again at this time next year, what do you think the one big takeaway from 2023 will have been? Start with you, Greg.
Well, I would hope to think that we're going to see a greater collaboration and more common metrics and measurement between digital and television.
I would hope that, not that necessarily drastically change, but much improved collaboration, and I know that's an overused term, but much improved collaboration when it comes to the planning and buying process in media overall, I think, just given all of the investments we've done.
I think when the project that's closest to my heart this year is sustainability. As corporations, we've all taken on the net zero challenge in some form or another, but it's sitting at the corporate level with finance teams, audit teams, procurement teams, and we're really leaning in this year to discovering what does that mean on the media side. We started at the CBC. We were one of the first on the production side, bringing Albert Tools from the BBC. So we're going to invest the time and energy to really unwind that and figure that out for the media side. And for us as the Crown Corporation, it makes sense, and bring it back to your teams, because we're going to have to do this as an industry to make a change really fast. But by the end of the next year, we want to have something to say about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it comes back to planning and reach frequency and figuring out how we weave those two very powerful executions and bring those buys closer together. I think that'll be and the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup.
Sounds like we will have made a lot of progress. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Appreciate your time and your commitment, and thank you all.
Thank you.